Hi, so today I'm going to talk about my favorite brain part, which is the frontal lobe. Why the frontal lobe? Ever since I took my first psychology class back in 2015/2016, it started in about August and went to May, where we took the advanced placement test, but it was advanced placement psychology. I've always enjoyed learning about the parts of the brain and mental disorders. Like, ever since that class, that has always been my favorite. So yeah. My favorite story about the frontal lobe is Phineas Gage. I found it so intriguing how his injury affected him. Functions of the frontal lobe: emotion expression, judgment, planning, problem solving, and memory. So here's kind of a background story of Phineas Gage. Phineas Gage was a railroad worker who survived an iron rod puncturing his skull and frontal lobe. After the incidents, Phineas Gage's personality changed for the worse. He was determined, who was nice to everyone, but after the iron rod incidents, he was lethargic and impolite. And I included a picture of a diagram where the iron rod went through his skull and punctured through his frontal lobe, and then also a picture of him with the iron rod and him after the incident. So, my next slide is mental disorders and the frontal lobe. A couple of disorders that affect the frontal lobe are antisocial personality disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD, and bipolar disorder. I also decided to include some of the brain scans that show a normal brain versus the brain affected with different mental disorders, like in the bottom one that has the normal, and then it has depression next to it, and next to that is a bipolar brain scan, and then someone with schizophrenia, and then next to it is OCD. And then the top right picture, it shows the difference between a normal brain scan and a brain scan of someone who is a psychopath, typically who would have antisocial personality disorder. And then the bottom right, I thought this picture was very funny, so I thought I would add it. It shows 3 different brain scans, one who has normal control, the middle one being someone who has clinical OCD, and then the one to the right of someone who says that they are so OCD, which is just the same brain scan of the normal brain. I always thought these were interesting to look at because you can see by the light, by the coloration on the brain scan, you can tell the darker colors mean that there's less activity, while the brighter colors like the red and the white are typically more activity. So you can tell in OCD how the frontal lobe is more lit and bright with colors versus a normal brain scan, while in a psychopath or depression or bipolar, the frontal lobe has less bright colors. What's so interesting about the brain, mental disorders, and criminals? Since I am a criminal justice and psychology major, I always found it interesting the connection between the brain, mental disorders, and criminals. I found it interesting because someone who has antisocial personality disorder could act normal by acting like they have empathy and feelings, but a brain scan would show that they have low activity in the frontal lobe. And then I added a picture of a normal and psychopathic pattern brain scan, and then also because Ted Bundy was a serial killer who had psychopathic tendencies. And for the finale, knowing a lot about the brain and mental disorder is really fun while watching criminal investigation shows like Bones, Criminal Minds, and Mindhunter, because you understand what the characters are talking about. I always liked watching them because knowing the different, like, why serial killers do the things that they do because of the brain. I always thought it was just so interesting. But that is the end. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.